Hi, everybody. Happy after Thanksgiving. I hope everyone is off to a very productive day. I am. I got up 5 a.m. I was on the Peloton, had a great stack of workouts. And happy Hanukkah to those who are celebrating. We started celebrating last night. Fun fact, I don't wrap presents. My best friend will tell you I'm a terrible present wrapper, so I'm big on the gift bags. But in our family, for Hanukkah, we do pillowcases, which was a tradition of my mom's, where when the kids were little, they decorated these pillowcases. And now instead of wrapping their gifts each night, I throw them into these pillowcases. Well, my daughter wanted a pair of UGG slippers. So I got them, but I never even opened the Zappos box. And then last night, the Zappos box wouldn't fit in the pillowcase. So I literally threw the Zappos box on the table and threw the pillowcase over it. And that is where we are with teenage Hanukkah gifting. And they are not getting 8 nights because they each are getting a plane ticket. So that's about it for Hanukkah. But anyway, hope everybody's off to a great week. I am so excited to welcome Tim Sohn here today. I met Tim when I was guest on his show, the Tim and Jim Show, with also our friend Jim Fuse. So thanks, Jim, for introducing us. And I'm so excited to have him here today. Let me tell you a little bit about him and then we'll bring him on. Tim is a 15-year cancer survivor and founder and CEO of Sohn Social Media Solutions, where he helps brands, entrepreneurs, and nonprofits build impact, relationships, and community through live stream show and virtual event producing and coaching. So really, we have the pro of all this here today. He believes it's important to share your personal story on social media because it makes you more relatable, encourages others to share their personal stories, and it inspires others. He recently created the weekly live stream show Showing Up: Perspectives on Cancer, along with his co-host Kara Olker. The show is a safe space where cancer survivors and cancer supporters come together to share their stories and connect, as well as find resources that provide healing, hope, and resilience. I hope you will join me in welcoming Tim Sohn. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Shane. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here today.
I'm so happy that you're here as well. Oh, look, Nancy Barrows is here joining us.
Hey,
Oh, that's so
Nancy.
fun. Hi, Nancy. Nancy and I just became connected on LinkedIn and Twitter, so I'm glad to have her here. So welcome. I know that you've got a lot going on these days, both business and personally. So let's start with the business. Why don't you kind of just tell us all who you are and what you do professionally?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you,
Oops,
Tim Sohn.
sorry.
I live here in Northeast Pennsylvania. I have a business called Sohn, SOHN, Social Media Solutions. And we help impact-focused brands, nonprofits, and entrepreneurs level up or create live shows and virtual events to build community, relationships, and impact. And we really love doing that, especially interested going forward in working with cancer organizations. Like Shane was saying, I'm a 15-year cancer, specifically leukemia survivor, and just recently started created, along with Kara Ulker, the Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer show, where we bring together cancer survivors and supporters to show up, share their stories and perspectives on cancer. It's a safe, vulnerable space to connect and show up. And I'm also the co-host of the Tim and Jim Show. We celebrated our 3-year anniversary in August, where we have guests on to talk about all things how to grow your small business. So that's a little bit in terms of the business perspective of Tim Sohn.
Love it. 3 years. I mean, that's amazing. I'm coming up on my 1 year, and just a year ago, I was still like, can I do this? Should I try this? And I was just telling Tim,
Congratulations. Let's
thank
give it
you.
up for Shane in the comments.
Woo!
Yes.
I was just telling Tim before the show that I made at the time she was 16, my daughter be my first guest because I told her I can't have a real guest on until I know what on earth I'm doing. So I made her be my guest from her bedroom upstairs. And
I
once
love
once
that.
it worked with her, I brought a real person on.
I love that. Keep it in the family to start.
Whew. Fortunately, she's very good. She might not be quite as patient with me as everybody else, but she was there for me, and I appreciate it. So, So
Yes.
now let's talk about, I know I've told everyone we are going to be talking about what it means to really put your personal story out there and how can it affect your brand. And really, I think you might have learned this maybe the hard way, just how much your story can compel people to listen to what you have to say, and it makes you relatable. And of course, I'm talking about your cancer diagnosis. You are a 15-year cancer survivor. And we
Yes.
hope that that continues on and you stay healthy and strong. And
Thank you.
again, we're just so glad that you're here. But let's kind of talk about that a little bit. And I know we've got a LinkedIn post of yours we're going to share. So I'm going to put that up on the screen, and we can talk about
Awesome.
that.
Yeah, that sounds great. So in June, for the first time, I decided to share my story in depth of living with chronic leukemia. In 2008, when I was in my 20s, I was diagnosed with chronic leukemia out of nowhere. There are other people in my family who have had leukemia, but I had never had any other previous medical issues, and I never had any plans of sharing in depth my journey of living with leukemia until three things happened. Nancy Barrows, who's here in the comments, created the Radiating Real movement, and I started creating content that was more vulnerable. Steve Sullivan, who's on LinkedIn, a 35-year acute leukemia survivor who we're going to be interviewing tomorrow on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. He created a video on National Cancer Survivor Day in June of 2021. That inspired me. And Jenny Gold invited me on her Podcast Not Podcast show, which is all about autoimmune uh, conditions and things like that. All three of those things happened in the same week. And I just felt that all these things happened in the same week for a reason, that it was time for me to share my story. Never had planned on doing it at all. Now, this post that Shane shared here, I have an oncology appointment tomorrow, and the percentage of my leukemia cells have been going up gradually over the last 4 tests that I've had. So I created this post, and I'll just read a little bit of it. It says, "I'm worried. Have an oncologist appointment on Tuesday. Percentage of leukemia cells have been going up last few appointments. Not sure what to expect this time. Also been thinking a lot about when's the right time to tell the kiddos that I have cancer. Don't want to worry them until I have to. But at the same time, I don't want them to find out after the fact." Right. So these are all things that are on my mind. And we created this show. We created this show as a result of me sharing my story. I connected with my co-host Kara Ulker through the Radiating Real movement. We both created Radiating Real posts. Mark Lee encouraged Kara to come on Shout Out Saturday, which I was producing. And so all these things came together. And so what has transpired as a result of sharing my personal story is that I have connected with other cancer survivors. I have reached out to them on LinkedIn just through searches for leukemia or leukemia survivors or cancer survivors, showing up to support them in the comments, connecting with them, getting on calls with them. Others similar, cancer survivors reaching out to me, getting on calls with them. There was a guy who reached out to me early on when I was doing this, and he was diagnosed in May with leukemia, also a different form of it, but in May of just this past May, right? So very early on. And he said, "Hey, could we talk?" He didn't know what to expect, right? He was really early on in the journey. And then we created this show. This show only came together in a number of weeks. Myself and Kara, a number of things aligned. We had kidded about creating a very different show a number of weeks before, and then just a number of things aligned for each of us, and we decided to do this together.
Mm-hmm.
And now this community comes together every Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and we show up, we share our stories about our perspective and connections on cancer. And so many people have someone, either they're a survivor or a family member has died of cancer, or a family member is a survivor of cancer, or some connection, right? And people have been showing up in the comments and sharing, and it's just so powerful.
Yeah.
And vulnerable. And it's just such, like, we're just honored to provide that safe space, and are so honored that people trust us to share in that space.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful that you've been able to take your story and share it and inspire others, all while running a marketing agency. So I'd like to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about that, because we do get small business owners who are watching. They're trying to learn from us. What can they do in their business to keep their voice real, and still be promoting their business? Not everybody is in the situation that you're in, with a cancer diagnosis, but everybody's got something going on in their personal life that they can share that makes them more relatable. Do you see any downside to coming out with whatever it is that you're wrestling with and making yourself vulnerable, or do you see it as a positive each and every time?
The way I look at it is that, like, for example, in my situation, like, the way I used to look at it was, I was worried that, like, if I was looking for a job, right? If a recruiter or a company saw that I had cancer, right? Maybe they wouldn't hire me because I had cancer, right?
Mm.
The way I look at it now is, I'm sharing my story about cancer, right? If a company doesn't want to hire me because of that, like, I look at that as a sign of strength, not as a sign of weakness, you know?
Mm.
And if they're not okay with that, then too bad for them, right? That's their loss,
Right.
you know? Um, but the other thing I would say is that you need to share what is comfortable for you, right? Like, if you're not comfortable sharing your cancer diagnosis, right? There are so many other things that we relate to on a personal level, right? Like, I like coffee. I like Dunkin' Donuts coffee, right? That's not super deep, right? But a lot of people like coffee or tea or whatever it is,
Or
right?
Dunkin' Donuts.
Or Dunkin' Donuts, right? Exactly. Yes. Or sports teams, or there's so many things, right, that we could
Right.
relate to. It doesn't have to be so deep.
Right. So maybe it's important to not try to conjure something up, or not try to put something out there that, like you said, maybe you're not ready to share. Maybe it's something still very personal for you, and even if it would help your business, it's not something that feels natural to share. So I think that that's what's important, is that all of this stays authentic, and that it really is, like we always say, your true human voice. And it's, if it's something you would share with just anyone, well, maybe it makes sense to share it from your business. But if it's something that you're kind of forcing, that's probably not a good idea. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. And the other thing I would say, and this came up in our show the other night, is that if when you're sharing the purpose is for you, then maybe the time isn't right. But if you're sharing and the
Mm.
purpose is for others, if you're helping others, then perhaps the time is more right to share that story.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. So people out there are thinking, what's going on in my life that I can share and be personal about? And I think really there's a lot people are struggling with right now that makes us all relatable, makes us all approachable, right? Think about, the supply chain issues. Your company might be wrestling with that, might be out of stock on something, you can't get back in. There are other people out there who are dealing with that same issue. It's not personal, it's business, but it's relatable. And so those are the kinds of things you can think about. What kinds of questions are you wrestling with in your life every day? So if you don't have a, a, a big issue to share from a personal point, think about what you've got in your business that still makes you relatable, either to other business owners or to your customers, because all of that just adds to the personality and continues to make your online voice real.
I agree.
Anything you to add to that?
I don't think so. I 100% agree. And I like what Nancy Barrows is saying in the comments.
Yeah,
She says, radiating real does not mean cracking open your chest and sharing every secret you have. We
right.
are all entitled to our secrets. Sharing everything is not real or authentic. That is not how we all work as humans, right? So
Absolutely.
share what's comfortable for you at the right time. Like I shared that my leukemia story after 15 years. It took me 15
Right.
years to share my story, right? So you
Right.
might not be ready, you know, you have to do what's right, comfortable for you at the right time.
Right. Absolutely. Great point, Nancy. I really appreciate the comment. And Tim, I
Yeah, thank
mean,
you.
I don't even know what to say. I'm so glad that you're here with us. I'm so glad that you keep spreading this message and that you help us all kind of see the benefit of being open and maybe not secret keeping. Sometimes families have secret diagnoses or things like that that they want to keep very insular. And while I respect that and understand that, and maybe it doesn't make sense to share for your business, I do think that that can add an extra level of stress to a family member who's coping with either a diagnosis or, it could be a financial issue, it could be anything. So I think it's important that we all know it's good to talk to people. If it makes sense for your branding, if it's something you're comfortable and you feel that it represents your business, don't be afraid to share it. And certainly reach out to Tim. He's got great advice. He's been through it. He wrestled with decision and then came forward because it made sense for his brand. So reach out to Tim on LinkedIn. Definitely ask him your questions if your company or your brand is trying to figure out how can I make myself more personable. Of course, you can always reach out to me as well. You can tweet me at 520 East Branch. Um, and of course, we're always happy to help develop that persona and then carry it out through your social media platforms. Tim, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in, who's
Thank you.
commented in the chat, and I hope everybody's off to a fantastic week. So thanks for joining. In the meantime, have a great week. I will see you all next week, and my guest will be Ed Alexander from Fan Foundry. You can find him on Twitter at Fan Foundry. He and I are very similar in what we do. We are both behind the keyboard, serving as the personality of lots of different brands. So I'm excited to kind of compare notes with Ed and see how he does it versus how I do it, how my team does it. Because even within my team, Candace and Lindsay, the three of us, we kind of do it all a little bit differently. So I'm excited to share those notes with Ed. I think you'll really enjoy that chat as well. In the meantime, thanks everybody. Have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving. Looking forward to the rest of the holidays, and happy Hanukkah if you celebrate. Keep it real.